Hello, hello. Welcome to the week one, lesson one. So this video will be about blood glucose roller coaster. I will be in a little while sharing the screen with you. And I just want to tell you that you can have your pen and paper ready, but I will provide you with the recording, with the presentation, so you can watch it anytime and you don't have to stress right now about writing everything down. So let's go into action. I'm sharing the screen and here we go. So what is glucose? Why do we need glucose? What is actually causing the imbalance and how we can keep it stable? That's what we will look into it right now. So you can see here on the picture that these blood glucose levels are going up and down, up and down. And that is causing peaks, afternoon slumps, and tiredness. And that's what we don't want. So let's first look at a little bit of biochemistry. So what is actually glucose? So glucose is sugar, and that is everywhere. And when I say sugar, you imagine that white powder that you use for baking or you put into coffee or whatever. So that is disaccharide, saccharose, right? And it's simple sugar. And why is it simple? Because it's only two molecules connected together with one bond. And it's very easy to break it down. So we need enzymes, they chop it, one chop, no energy expenditure. And this sugar, glucose, then the single molecule glucose, gets into the bloodstream. And our body doesn't like when it's flooded with way too much glucose. We want stable levels. So action happens after that. Question is, how much is too much? So when we, for example, eat or consume just glucose, we increase the blood glucose levels very quickly. So it's the speed of the absorption. And that's why you are usually advised not to eat white bread, but buy, for example, whole wheat bread, full corn bread. Yeah? Or not to eat white rice, but to eat black rice. Or not to eat white pasta, but to eat, for example, buckwheat pasta. Whoever had consultation with me, you know that I'm obsessed with buckwheat, so I will be talking about buckwheat a lot. You will be buckwheat queens at the end of the 4 weeks. So the speed of absorption, that's what we already said. When it's simple glucose, it gets into the bloodstream very quickly. Now you might be saying, but I don't eat any sugar. I don't have sugary tooth. But you can see that no matter if you eat complex carbohydrates, it's still bringing the glucose into your body. It stays there, it anyway gets broken down, and the body needs to cope with it. Question is, does your body really need it? And if not, what happens? So let's look at the sources of sugar. So lactose, if you eat dairy products, even for example, cottage cheese or quark, fromage frais, it still contains lactose. And lactose is also only two molecules together. Yeah, so it's very simple to break it down. If you, for example, think that honey is a better option and that honey is healthy and you can use it for baking, you put it into your porridge, you put it into white yogurt, you are increasing the consumption of glucose because honey is 50% glucose and 50% fructose. But fructose is also sugar. It's also two molecules. Yeah? So honey is not any better than sucrose, the white sugar. It's the same. And if you think, no, but honey is given to us by bees, it has some other vitamins and minerals. It's traces. It's 0.001 of minerals in the honey. If you eat 3 pumpkin seeds, you will have more minerals than from the honey. Okay, I also use honey for my children because I also think it's like a healthier option. But the biochemistry and the science behind it tells you that at the end, for the blood glucose levels, it's the same. Yeah. So here on this picture, you can, for example, see dextrose, carob, dextrin, icing sugar, maple syrup, agave syrup, coconut blossom sugar. All of this is sugar. All of this is glucose. So in the following days and weeks, if you will hear me saying, but this is sugar, that's what I mean. So even if you drink apple juice, if you are going to buy jam, marmalade, it's still 50 grams of sugar. Yeah? So is sugar really bad? And do we need it? That's what we will answer here. So why do we need glucose? Why do we need sugar and do we actually need it, right? So yes, glucose is a preferred source of energy for our body. For example, our brain loves glucose. Glucose also increases the serotonin levels. It makes us happy. That's why after eating a biscuit and drinking a cup of tea or coffee, we feel happier. We feel more satisfied, only for a short time of period. So the glucose that we consume gets into the bloodstream, and from the blood it gets into the cells, and cells will use the glucose to turn it into energy. So it's actually mitochondria. It's like these energy centers that will turn the glucose into ATP. So it's a little bit of chemistry. Adenosine triphosphate. You don't need to know it. It's just if you want to research more about it. But why do we need it? Because even the cells in our body, they're lazy. Nothing is for free. And even they want to work and be paid for it. So for example, if you want your muscles to contract, and there is myelin and actin, I think these two are called so, there is a guard, and the guard will say, you need to give me 2 ATP, so $2, for me to contract the muscle so that you can walk, so that you can exercise. And if you don't pay, the body gets sore, the body doesn't work. Yeah. So cells in our body are always asking to be paid, and they are paid with this ATP. So if you don't have enough glucose, or if your mitochondria are not producing the energy, you might feel very, very tired. And especially your brain will be suffering a lot because it needs glucose. Also, our muscles need it for quick action. So if you need to quickly run away, there is no time to create the source of energy or bring it from other parts of the body. It needs to be stored in the muscle. So more muscle you have, more storage you have. And this storage is called glycogen. We have storage like the parking in the liver, and that's needed for the organs, for our heart to beat when we are under the stress. And then we have it in legs or wherever you have muscles on your body. Yeah. So we need glucose for this. If we don't have glucose, and for example, you go for a run and you run out of the glucose, you will create lactate. And that's the pain that you feel in your muscles after a certain amount of exercise, depending how trained you are. But the question is, how people that are on a strict ketogenic diet, who do not consume carbohydrates or a very, very small amount of carbohydrates, how can they manage? Or fasting people, if somebody is fasting for 3 weeks, not consuming any glucose whatsoever, how can they survive? Because our body is smart and our body actually knows how to create the energy. We are just not giving it so much chances to use it. So this process is called gluconeogenesis. Glucose, new genesis to create. Yeah. So from which sources does the body create that new energy, that glucose? So it's from fat. So if you have on your body some fat, like belly fat or whatever, everybody has some fat, unless you are anorectic, your body can create it. But our bodies are a little bit lazy. They do not want to touch the storage. They always crave when you give it prepared. And that's why we are craving sugar, and that's why we feel hungry, because the body says, I send her the signal to be hungry, she will eat, and I don't have to work hard by breaking down the fat cells. Yeah? So let's look at the next slide, and that will explain. So what is actually causing the imbalance? Yeah? So we need certain amount of carbohydrates per day to function with ease. Yeah? And it's usually around 80 grams of carbohydrates. And don't get stuck on the number of 80. It all depends on your age, on your size, on your activity level. Yeah? So 80 is just the number that I'm using here for example for this purpose. So imagine you have a car, and the car has a tank for 80 liters of petrol, right? So your body is also a vehicle, and it needs 80 grams of carbohydrates. So if the stores are full and you eat little more biscuit, what happens? So normally there is an overspill because it's nowhere to put it. And the same happens in our body. There is an overspill. It's in the bloodstream, it goes to the liver, and the liver says, okay, what will we do with it? Glycogen stores for the sugar are full. Let's turn it into fat. And it will turn it into fat in the shortest possible place to put it. And it's on a belly fat, right? It's not going to store it in your calves. It's not going to store it in your face. It's quite far away. So the liver will store it as a belly fat, thinking, okay, next time when we don't have enough sugar, we will use that store. But because you keep consuming carbohydrates, your body never touches the stores. Yeah? So the idea on this picture is to stay somewhere in the middle, right? Never running too full and overspilling, and never running too low. Because if we run too low, that is extremely stressful for the body. Yeah? And you are causing chemical stress, inflammation, increasing the cortisol levels. And that's what we will talk in the next lesson. If you eat too much, it's the overspill, and also the overload of your body, because somebody needs to process it. Yes, you enjoyed Ben and Jerry. Yes, you enjoyed baked potatoes. Yes, you enjoyed pasta. But if the body never needed it, yeah, needs to be put somewhere, and it's hard work. So what can we do? Let's move it here. We ideally want to train our body to function like a hybrid car. Yeah? So if you eat little portions and very often, and you are, for example, vegetarian, therefore you consume everything that the mother nature gave us, and that's basically glucose, because the photosynthesis is creating glucose in a form of like sugar, fructose, and all of this. You are constantly running on this fuel, and you never give your chance to switch into ketones. So I'm not saying that ketogenic diet is optimal for everybody, and I also wouldn't follow strictly a ketogenic diet. It is a very good approach for people who are diabetic, who have cancer, who want to lose weight very quickly. Yes, so that's perfect for a short amount of time, and being controlled by a nutritionist or medical professional. Yeah, not to do it on your own. So we are not going to get into the topic of ketosis, but ketones are created when you are not having enough glucose, and they are using the source of energy from the fat or from the protein. Yeah. So intermittent fasting twice a week is, for example, good. Low carbohydrate diet is good. Ketogenic diet under control. Atkinson. All of this has the same same approach, just using the body being able to switch in between the two sources. And that's what we will try to achieve in this Eat Clean, Get Lean. You will teach your body to adapt and not run only on carbohydrates. Yeah. So I just want to show you now example of food that I have in here, and then other examples that you can do. So for example, I buy this rice, or I bought this rice for my children. So I personally don't eat any rice, and Children still need carbohydrates. They're playing football, they're running around, they need quick energy. Yeah? And we don't want to limit them. But just to tell you how many carbohydrates is there. So in one portion is 48 grams of carbohydrates, from which 0.5 is sugar. So there is no really added sugar in it. Of course we need, but that rice has 48 grams of carbohydrates, and those molecules will be broken down into glucose, and the glucose needs to be used. So if you, for example, go for a run, if you are going to hike in the mountains and you need that quick energy, rice might be very good. But if you sit all day, have meetings on Zoom, and you are not really doing any physical exercise, and you are not even using the brain in the fullest concentration, you don't need as much glucose. Yeah. So that's one example of rice. So what would be the alternative to this is, for example, black rice or red rice. And why? Because they have actually the cover around it, and it's fiber. And fiber is also sugar, but it's something that our body doesn't know how to break, right? The fiber is protecting the simple molecules of sugar for being excreted into the bloodstream. So that's what I would recommend. Another package that I, for example, buy. So time to time, I like to have buckwheat and sweet potato noodles. So buckwheat is basically grain without gluten. So it's a really, really nice one. It's high in rutin, has many, many benefits. And sweet potato is healthy too. It's starchy vegetable. Starch is also sugar, right? So just for curiosity, I tell you, this is 80 grams. It's actually like one single portion, and it has 65 grams of carbohydrates, right? So if you need 80 per day, and this is 65, imagine then you have 4 or 3 spoons of oats in the morning, you will have 1 piece of fruit, and you completed your daily dose. If you eat something over it, you will grow belly fat. Yeah. You also have to be careful that there is hidden sugar everywhere. So this is bouillon. And normally it's bought in al natura, so you would think it must be healthy. But when you look at the ingredients, there is maize starch. And starch is basically like a storage of glucose, sugar in the plant. Yeah, so it's sugar. And then there is maltodextrin. So maltose is sugar from grains, and dextrin, every time when it's dextrin, it's sugar. So you can see that it's number 2 and number 3 ingredients. So the most of this packaging is basically sugar as well, and you would just think it's bouillon. Yeah, this one would be a healthier alternative, which is brodo vegetale, and there is basically no sugar. It's a nice one. Buckwheat. So I talk about buckwheat a lot, and you will find it even on the shopping list. So when we look at the buckwheat, one portion, what is one portion is 60 grams, has 42 grams of carbohydrates. So it's still complex carbohydrate, but it's still carbohydrate. But even like this, I recommend it. So what can you take out of it? Simple carbohydrates versus complex carbohydrates. Keep in mind that even fruit and vegetable is carbohydrate. Yeah. So even if you eat 2 or 3 carrots, it's already 20 or 30 grams of carbohydrates, and that's perfectly fine. That's going to be the source of energy for our brain and for our muscles. Yeah. So here you have a homework for this week, and that's actually to help you. Check your cupboard. Check everything that might be there, like this healthy nocciolata. Check how many grams of carbohydrates it actually has. If you are not sure about some packaging, I offer you that you can take 3 pictures and submit them in the Facebook group by Wednesday. I will review all the pictures, and I will make a video and comment whether it's good or not, and why, and I tell you why. Yeah, so that's what you can do. Here are other tasks. So think about what you eat right now and how you can replace it. You have access to, let me see. You have access to the Google Drive, where I'm storing all the material, as well as the Facebook group. So in a Facebook group, if you watch the first video, the introduction video in the Facebook group, you see that there is a section files, and in those files, you will find the same. So when we look at it, what you can do is you can start keeping the health and well-being diary, because as a bonus, one of you can, I will reveal for one of you the whole menu, what you eat, and I will give you personalized advice. Yeah. So what would you write here? You write there what you had for breakfast, what you had for lunch, what you had for dinner. Did you need any snack? But not only this, write there also how you feel. So it's about mindfulness. Here you have questions that you can use. How stressed you are that day? Did you eat when you were under stress? Did you eat because you had cravings? What did you crave? Was it like sugar cravings? How did you feel? Were you angry, irritated? Did you have low energy? How did you feel before the food? How did you feel after? How many cups of coffee did you have and why? Was it because of the habit? Was it because you were feeling so tired that you needed you have to drink it? Did you feel satisfied and full after eating, or did you needed some extra food? Did you manage to eat 5 to 10 portions of vegetable? Did you have protein with every meal? This is just for you to build into it. After 4 weeks, you will understand fully why I'm asking you if the protein was there, why I'm asking you how did you feel after eating it. Yeah. So I also, for those that did not download the shopping list yet, I include the clean eating shopping list. This can be just for inspiration, what you want to include. And yes, I mention here fruit, and this is all low sugar fruit, and we will go through that, and I will tell you why. Yeah, I include here starchy vegetables. So starch, we just said, starch is glucose, it's sugar, right? So these ones you eat with in limitation, and non-starchy vegetable, it's unlimited amount. Yeah. I include here other food that you can check if you have at home. And I'm also mentioning here the alternative to sweeteners. Yes, I write there honey, stevia, coconut, and you can challenge me and you can ask me. I write here gluten-free grains, and buckwheat is on the list, millet, quinoa. I will be also sharing some quick videos, tips of what you can implement and cook from this list. And it will be in Facebook group, right? It's additional. I know you don't have so much time. I try to keep the videos short, and therefore we are going to jump back into the presentation to summarize. So what you can do, what action you can take. Instead of white bread, you can start buying rye bread or buckwheat bread, because it's higher in fiber. There is rye has gluten, but buckwheat doesn't have any gluten, and you will immediately feel ease for digestion. For example, for those that are constipated or suffer with bloating, this is a better alternative for them than to gluten. What else? As I said, instead of white rice, you can implement red rice from Camargue or black rice. Yeah. And a third tip, so you can try to swap honey either for stevia. I personally don't like stevia, but it's if you want to lose the belly fat, if you want to lose weight, it's one of the alternatives. I use coconut blossom sugar. And why? It's nothing really to be connected with coconut. It doesn't taste like coconut because it's a nectar from the flowers of the coconut on the coconut tree, and that is low in glycemic index, so it doesn't spike the insulin, the hormone. We will be talking about it later on. Yeah, so that's my personal tip. And what else can you do? Think about fruit. So yes, fruit is very healthy, but fruit is also very high in fructose, and fructose is a high FODMAP. For people who are bloated, This is the worst thing, FODMAP, fructose. Yeah. So what can you do if you still like fruit and we need fruit and we want to eat fruit? You can eat berries. And you say, but Blanca, they are not in season now, even though I saw them in Co-op. Frozen berries. Frozen berries will still give you all the polyphenols. It's still going to give you the vitamins and the minerals, and you can defrost them. You can put them into your porridge. You can bake cakes with them, and they're just delicious. Kiwi. Kiwi is, yes, if you buy kiwi from New Zealand, it's really not sustainable, but in supermarkets, you can find kiwi from Italy. It's not so far away from us, so why not? And it's very low in sugar. So, personalized assignment for the feedback. If you want my feedback, if you want me to review what's in your cupboard, it's your favorite healthy food, it's something like this, and you are not sure if there is something hidden, if you should buy it or not, submit those 3 pictures in the Facebook. If you are not using Facebook, I still want to support you, still want to help you. You can send me email with the pictures, right? But keep in mind, it's over 100 women in the group. Already, if each of you submits 3 pictures, it's 300 pictures for me to comment on them. And I definitely want to help you, but if you can make it easier and submit it in Facebook and share it with the others, they can learn from your mistakes too, yeah? So 3 pictures of your favorite ingredients that you think are healthy, but I might not think the same. Submit by Wednesday to the Facebook group. And also, if you want, you can submit your food and mood tracker. And one of you, I will reveal the full one, but I will of course like try as to review as many as possible. And we will discuss it on Thursday in the live Q&A. So whatever comes into your mind until Thursday, you can ask me. So I hope it was all clear, and I am looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.